It was a night cloaked in silence, broken only by the distant beat of war drums. In the dusty plains of West Africa, a battle unfolded so violent, so decisive, that its memory should have been carved into history. Yet today, it is barely whispered. About erased from records, silenced by those who feared what it revealed. Warriors clashed under a blood-red sky, and the outcome threatened the power of one of the most feared empires of its time. Why was this story hidden? And what secrets lie in a battle so devastating, Fulani historians refuse to tell it? The Fulani Empire, forged through jihad and expansion, was one of the most formidable forces in 18th and 19th century West Africa. Under leaders like Usman Dan Fodio and his successors, their armies spread with religious fervor and political ambition, reshaping entire regions. They claimed divine authority, framing conquest as destiny, their historians carefully preserving their victories in glowing detail. But history, as we know, is written by those who survive and those who win. For every tale of triumph recorded, in Fulani chronicles there were other battles, bloody and inconvenient, that were quietly omitted. One such conflict simmered on the edge of their expanding territory, a resistance by a coalition of warriors and kingdoms who refused to bow to Fulani rule. The battleground was a dry plain near the river's edge, where local fighters, farmers turned soldiers, elders turned generals prepared for war. They lacked the numbers and cavalry of the Fulani, but they carried with them a different weapon: desperation. For them, this was not only a fight for land, but for their way of life, their beliefs, and their very survival died as dawn broke. Dust. Clouds signaled the arrival of Fulani horsemen. Their polished spears caught the first light, banners flying, confidence high. Yet within that confidence hid a danger that the historians would never admit. The Fulani were not invincible. And this battle would prove it. The clash began with thunder. The Fulani cavalry charged, hooves pounding like the beat of a war drum, their war cries piercing the morning air. Their reputation alone had broken countless armies before, and for a moment, it seemed this would be no different. But the defenders had studied their enemy. Instead of scattering in fear, the coalition split into waves, forcing the horses into narrow paths where spears and hidden trenches awaited them. The ground, dry and cracked, betrayed the riders. Hooves stumbled, and men fell beneath the weight of their mounts. Shouts of surprise cut through the confident chants of the invaders. The defenders struck hard, attacking the Fulani flank with guerrilla tactics. Arrows rained down from concealed ridges, while warriors with rusted swords pressed into the chaos. What should have been a swift victory became a grinding struggle. The Fulani, unaccustomed to facing resistance this fierce, grew desperate. Their generals ordered wave after wave of charges, but each one met a wall of blood and fire. Dust filled the air so thick it blinded even the bravest. By nightfall, the once confident Fulani lines were fractured, their horses exhausted, their men shaken. Still, pride and reputation chained them to the fight. Retreat would mean humiliation, and humiliation was not written into the chronicles of empire. So they fought on, unaware that every moment of hesitation gave their enemies the courage to push harder. The night ended with a silence far different from the one it began, with broken bodies on the plain, fires smoldering, and the realization that the Fulani had not triumphed here. But dawn would bring the true horror, the scale of their loss, and the impossible task of hiding it from history. When the sun rose again, the battlefield told a story of devastation. Fulani warriors, who once seemed untouchable, lay scattered in the dust. Their cavalry, their pride, their symbol of supremacy was crippled. Horses limped, their riders silent forever. The coalition, battered but standing, surveyed the wreckage with disbelief. Against all odds, they had repelled the Empire's might. For once, the invincible had been struck down, But the true climax came not in the clash of steel, but in what followed. Fulani survivors retreated in shame, their leaders facing an unthinkable dilemma. To acknowledge the defeat would shatter their aura of divine power. To admit weakness would inspire rebellion across their territories. So they chose silence. Records that day were burned. Chronicles spoke only of a costly campaign, never mentioning the scale of the loss. The victors, lacking scribes and chroniclers of their own, saw their story fade into whispers. Thus, the battle that should have reshaped. The image of empire was buried, erased not by time, but by choice. For the coalition of defenders, victory was bittersweet. They had won a night, a battle, perhaps even a legend, but empires are not toppled in a single clash. The Fulani regrouped, rebuilt, and pressed on elsewhere. Yet the memory of that night lived on in oral traditions, passed quietly from one generation to another. For the Fulani, the loss left a scar. It proved that even their cavalry and zeal could falter. But instead of humbling the empire, the defeat was hidden, stitched out of official records. History became a weapon, wielded not to reveal truth, but to preserve an image of invincibility. And so today, this battle is little known, its story erased by those who had the power to shape history. But buried truths have a way of resurfacing. They echo in the questions historians now ask: what other stories were silenced? How many battles were fought not just on the plains of Africa, but on the fragile memory of those who lived them? This was not just a battle forgotten. It was a reminder that history itself can be conquered, bent, and erased by those who fear what it might reveal. The Fulani won many wars, but the one they lost may be the most important of all. And perhaps that is why their historians never spoke of it.